A thin mist clung to the street as he walked, the kind that made New York's neon blur at the edges. Juncio kept his hands in the pockets of his black coat as he moved through the cold night. His steps were slow, steady, measured, partly habit, partly necessity. Too quick a movement, and the familiar pressure would bloom in his chest again. It had been worse that afternoon. The doctors said it would continue that way. He didn't argue. There was nothing to argue for. At this hour, most people hurried. He didn't. The ache under his ribs pulsed faintly with each breath, but he carried it the way he carried every burden, quietly, without pause, without visible reaction. No one on the street looked twice at him. They never did. He preferred it that way. The diner appeared at the corner, a cheap place, fluorescent lights, chipped tile, the sort of establishment he would never have stepped into years ago. But tonight, his associates were delayed, and the cold throb in his chest was telling him to sit. Just for a moment. Not to rest, but not to fall. He pushed the door open. Warm air, heavy with the smell of coffee and old grease, brushed over him. His breath steadied. And then he saw her. Nia. She moved between tables with a practiced grace, the soft sway of someone accustomed to long shifts and tired customers. Her uniform was worn, her apron fraying at the seams. A few strands of her curly hair had slipped from her bun, brushing her cheek each time she turned. Her eyes were gentle, even in exhaustion, even in the quiet way she apologized to a man for bringing him the wrong side dish. Juncio didn't know why he kept watching. He rarely watched anything he wasn't studying, evaluating, or eliminating. But something about her presence pressed against him. Subtle, unfamiliar, unwelcome. Warmth, maybe. Softness. A reminder of a life he no longer had time to imagine. His chest tightened, not from illness this time, but something else entirely. He took a seat in the far corner, where the lighting was dimmer. The booth groaned beneath him, old leather complaining under his weight. He exhaled slowly, letting the pain settle. He didn't close his eyes, didn't touch his chest. He refused to show weakness, even to the empty air. Nia noticed him only after a moment. She approached his table, pen in hand, her smile small but real. "Good evening," she said. "What can I get started for you?" Her voice was soft, so soft that something inside him stilled, like the city's noise fell away for just a second. He answered with only 2 words. "Hot tea." She nodded, jotting it down. "Anything else?" He shook his head. Speaking cost effort he rarely wasted. He expected her to leave. Instead, she looked at him for a moment longer, not curiosity, not fear, just something gentle, something human. "All right," she murmured and turned away. He followed her with his eyes without meaning to. When she disappeared behind the counter, he looked down at his hands. They were steady tonight. That was something. But the tea didn't arrive immediately. The laughter did. 3 men, young, loud, drunk enough to forget decency, but not courage, sat in the booth opposite his. Their jackets still carried the night's cold, one of them slamming his fist on the table as he shouted at Nia. "Hey, we've been waiting 20 minutes. Are you blind or just lazy?" Nia startled, her shoulders tense, but she forced a polite smile. "Sorry, sir. I'll bring your order right away." "Oh, now she hears us." Another man sneered. "Thought you people work faster." Juncio froze. People. The word lingered in the air like something sour. Nia kept her gaze down. "I apologize. I'll maybe smile while you do it." The first man interrupted. "You're getting paid, aren't you?" Juncio felt the faint familiar pressure bloom under his ribs, but this wasn't the illness. This was something sharper, cleaner, a cold heat that cracked through the quiet he lived in. Nia stepped back as one of the men intentionally stretched his foot into her path, trying to trip her. She stumbled but caught herself, tray shaking in her hands. They laughed. Juncio didn't. His fingers curled against the table, slow and deliberate, as though testing the motion. He felt no tremor. "Good," Nia whispered. "Please don't do that." Her voice barely audible. "Or what?" The tallest man smirked. "You gonna cry?" She knelt to pick up a fork that had fallen, and he leaned closer, laughing above her head. That was when Juncio stood. He didn't do it quickly. Quick movements were dangerous now, but even rising slowly, his presence shifted the room's air, changed the temperature of the corner. The booth creaked as he stepped into the narrow aisle, his coat falling open just enough to show the tailored black beneath. The men stopped laughing. Predators sometimes recognized something older, colder, and infinitely more practiced. Nia noticed him first. Her eyes widened slightly, not in fear, but in confusion. She hadn't realized he'd been watching. Juncio spoke quietly, his voice steady, controlled. "She's not speaking to you anymore." The tallest man frowned. "Who the hell are you?" Juncio didn't blink. "She's with me." Silence rippled outward. Nia's breath caught, her lips parting in disbelief. But Juncio didn't look at her. He didn't look away from men. And inside his chest, beneath the illness, beneath the pain, something unfamiliar flickered. Something dangerously close to purpose. Something he thought he'd lost long ago. Something worth standing for. The tallest man looked Juncio up and down as if trying to assess whether the stranger in the dark coat was actually a threat. Juncio remained still, his posture relaxed, his breathing controlled. The cold ache beneath his ribs spread slowly, but he ignored it. He had ignored worse. "Man, sit down," one of the men muttered. "This ain't your business." Juncio's voice remained even. "It is now." The tallest man barked a laugh. "Oh, I get it. You're trying to impress her? Acting like some hero." Juncio didn't answer. Heroes spoke too much. He wasn't one. When the man shoved his shoulder, Juncio didn't move. The man's hand bounced back as if he'd pushed a wall. Something subtle shifted in the bully's eyes, recognition maybe, or instinct warning him that he'd misjudged the quiet stranger. "Forget it," the shortest one muttered, pulling at his friend's sleeve. "Let's just go. Food sucked anyway." The tallest man stared a moment longer, as if trying to decipher something he couldn't articulate. Finally, with a grunt, he turned. The three of them stumbled out of the diner, muttering curses, but not daring to look back. The moment the door closed, the diner's noise returned. The hum of the refrigerator, the scrape of utensils, the distant sound of traffic. Nia exhaled shakily, looking down at the scattered silverware on the floor. She bent to pick it up. Juncio crouched before she could reach the fork near his feet. The movement squeezed his chest sharply, but he kept his expression neutral as he handed it to her. She hesitated before taking it. "You didn't have to do that." He said nothing. "But thank you." "Really?" He still didn't speak. Words were heavier than actions. Nia swallowed and straightened, tucking the fork onto her tray. She looked shaken, but not broken. Her composure impressed him more than he expected. "I'm sorry you saw that," she murmured. "People like them, they don't really think before they talk." Juncio finally replied. "They thought plenty." She blinked. "What?" "Cruelty is deliberate." Her lips parted slightly. She didn't know how to respond. He had said more than he intended. That happened sometimes when pain clouded the edges of his restraint. Before she could speak again, the ache in his chest sharped, a warning pulse. He steadied his breath, forcing the muscles between his ribs to loosen. Nia noticed the slight tension in his posture. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. Yes. It was a lie, but a necessary one. She didn't believe him, not fully. But she didn't push. Instead, she stepped back, trying to reassemble the scattered pieces of her shift. "I should bring your tea. I'm sorry it's late." "I can wait." She paused, surprised. Most customers complained. He didn't. "You really don't have to," she whispered. He tilted his head slightly. "Do you want to bring it?" Nia froze, as if she hadn't considered her own preference. She stared at him for a moment, then nodded once. "Yes, then I'll wait." Her throat bobbed with a quiet swallow. For the first time, she allowed herself a small, real smile, one that touched the corner of her eyes. She disappeared behind a counter. Juncio lowered himself into the booth again. His chest tightened as he sat, and for a moment he allowed the pain to crest. The doctor's voice echoed in his memory. "You have to slow down. Your heart doesn't recover like it used to." He had no intention of slowing down. Not while his organization still needed him. Not while enemies still circled. Not while he still breathed. But tonight, his breath came thinner. He rubbed the side of his thumb slowly, grounding himself until the pain receded. When Nia returned, she placed a ceramic mug of steaming tea in front of him. The fragrance, ginger, honey, something faintly herbal, rose with the heat. "It's on the house," she said, fiddling with the hem of her apron. He lifted the cup. "Why?" "Because you helped me. And because you look like—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Like you needed something warm." He held her gaze. She didn't flinch under it. Most people did. "You shouldn't give free things to strangers," he said. She shrugged lightly. "Then I'll consider it a thank you, not a freebie." Her attempt at levity stirred something faint in him. She waited, as if expecting him to sip it. When he didn't, she added, "Drink it while it's hot. It helps more that way." This time he did. Her relief at the simple action startled him. Why should she care? He was no one to her. Except tonight, he had stepped between her and cruelty. Maybe that wasn't nothing. A heavy thud echoed from the kitchen, followed by a string of curses. Nia winced. I should go check that. My manager gets frustrated easily." Junseo raised an eyebrow. "At you?" "At everything," she corrected quickly. "Don't worry about it." He didn't worry. He calculated. A manager who cursed behind closed doors. 3 drunks emboldened enough to harass staff. An understaffed diner. A tired waitress who apologized too much. This was a place where vulnerability went unnoticed. And predators like that. He sipped his tea again. Minutes passed. The diner grew quieter as customers trickled out. Nia swept crumbs from tables, wiped surfaces, refilled condiments. Her feet dragged slightly, but she never stopped moving. She reminded him of people he used to know, those who survived not by strength, but by endurance. People who kept going until the world forced them to stop, like his own heart would soon. When she passed by his booth again, she slowed. "You can stay as long as you want. We close in about half an hour." He glanced at the time. "I'll leave soon." "Oh," her voice dipped. For some reason that surprised her too. Before he could analyze that reaction, the bell above the diner door jingled. A man in a charcoal coat entered, quiet, purposeful, scanning the room in a single sweep. His eyes landed on Junseo. Junseo tensed just slightly, not from fear, from calculation. The man approached the counter and tapped twice. A signal. Nia noticed. "Do you need a table?" she asked him. The man shook his head politely. "I'm here for someone." Then his gaze shifted to Junseo. Nia followed the direction and froze. Something about the silent exchange unsettled her. Their stillness, their familiarity. The man inclined his head. "Boss." Junseo's jaw tightened. Too formal, too revealing, too close to Nia's hearing. He said quietly, "Not here." The man corrected himself immediately. "Apologies." Nia blinked at them both. "You two know each other?" Junseo didn't answer. The man did. He's expected. Junseo shot him a look, one sharp enough to silence the man mid-breath. Nia's expression shifted. Confusion, maybe worry. She didn't know who he was. She only knew enough to sense danger. He rose slowly from the booth. The pain flared again. Not now. Not here. Nia watched him stand, her brow furrowing. "Are you okay? You look pale." "I'm fine." Another lie. She wasn't convinced, but the man in the charcoal coat stepped closer, intruding on her ability to ask anything more. "We should go," the man said softly to Junseo. Junseo nodded once. He turned to leave, but then Nia's voice chased him. "Wait." He paused, looking back. She took a step forward, hands clasped nervously in front of her. "Will you be back?" The question caught him off guard, not because she asked, but because of the unfamiliar tightness that formed beneath his sternum at the sound of it. He should say no. He didn't return anywhere. He didn't have time. He didn't have a future. Instead, he heard himself say yes. Nia's cheeks warmed. She offered a small, unsure smile. "Okay, then good night." He didn't say it back. Words like that belonged to people who expected tomorrow. But as he stepped into the cold air, his heart ached, not from illness, from wanting. His subordinate walked beside him. Was that wise? No. Then why did you? Juncio stopped. The wind pushed between them as he stared down the empty street. Because, he said quietly, someone spoke to me like I was alive. The man fell silent. Juncio's chest tightened again, painful, but this time he let it happen. He needed the reminder. He couldn't afford softness, couldn't afford distraction, but Nia's voice still echoed in his mind. Will you be back? Yes. He had no idea why he said it, but he meant it, even if he shouldn't. Juncio didn't return the next night. He intended to. His steps had almost carried him toward the diner before logic twisted him away. He had no business lingering near a woman who had no part in his world, no business letting her voice settle in places he couldn't afford to feel. But the following night, when his mind was a storm of syndicate politics, where his ribs felt carved open from a particularly bad episode, his feet found their way back. It was almost midnight when he entered the diner. The warmth at his skin, and with it, something else, something quieter, a soft steadiness, like the hum of something familiar. Nia looked up from behind the counter, blinking in surprise. Then her smile grew slowly, shy around the edges. You came back. His breath caught, not visibly, but enough that the pain in his chest shifted. Yes. She wiped her hands on her apron, walking toward him. You look tired. He didn't respond. He always looked tired. That was what dying did. What can I get you? Tea. She wrote it down, though she didn't need to. Same as last time. He nodded. She didn't walk away immediately. Instead, she studied his face with a gentle concentration, as if cataloging tiredness and bruised shadows. You should sit, she said softly. You look like you need to. He didn't argue. He slid into the same booth as before. The cushioning remembered him. When she brought his tea a few minutes later, she placed it carefully in front of him, as though the cup might break if she set it too hard. Long day, she asked. They're all long. Because of work. He didn't answer. Not because he wanted to hide, but because he didn't know how to answer without revealing too much. She didn't push. She simply nodded, leaning a hand on the table. Mine too, but tea helps. That's why I recommend it to everyone. You don't drink coffee? No, she said with a small smile. Coffee speeds everything up. My life is already fast enough. He found himself studying her, her calm, her soft humor, her tired eyes that still held light. Do you live near here? She asked, hesitant. Yes, a long walk. Long enough. She tucked a curl behind her ear. Well, be careful. Something about the way she said it made his breath catch. A stranger telling him to be careful, him, of all people, was almost laughable. But she meant it. He could hear it in her voice. She moved to another table then, leaving him with silence. He sipped his tea. The warmth loosened something in his chest, not the pain, but the tightness around it. He didn't realize he had been holding tension until it released. Nia checked on him more than she needed to. Each time, she pretended she had a reason, a refill, a wiped table, a question about the tea. But her eyes lingered longer than the task required. At one point, she tripped slightly, catching herself on his booth. He stood instinctively, steadying her with a hand at her elbow. Careful, he murmured. She laughed softly, a little embarrassed. I'm fine. And look, you stood faster tonight. That's progress. Last time you looked like sitting hurt. His pulse stalled. She noticed. He dropped his hand and sat back down. You pay too much attention. You pay too little, she countered. He didn't have a response for that. When her break came, she surprised him by sliding into the booth across from him. I've been running around all night, she said with a soft sigh. 5 minutes sitting won't kill me. He glanced at her. People usually choose empty tables. I'm not most people. He looked down at the tea, then back at her. You shouldn't sit with me. She swallowed. Do you not want me to? His chest tightened sharply. Pain flared, but not from the illness. Yes, he said quietly. I want you to. Her smile bloomed slowly. Then I'm sitting here. They didn't speak for a moment. The diner settled into late-night quiet, the kind that stretched between conversation and breath. Can I ask you something? She ventured. He nodded once. You said I was with you that night. Why? He held her gaze. Because someone needed to say it. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. She hesitated. Then her voice lowered. Are you used to protecting people? His throat tightened. Protecting people was the only thing he'd ever done. Until he failed. The one failure his heart still punished him for. Sometimes, he answered. Is that your job? No. Then what is? He stared at her sincerity, at her attempt to understand a man who had lived so long in shadows he had forgotten what sunlight felt like. My job, he said carefully, is not something you need in your life. She frowned slightly. You talk like you're dangerous. I am. Silence stretched. To his surprise, she didn't pull away. She didn't tense. She didn't look toward the door like she needed an escape. Instead, she whispered, But you didn't hurt them. You protected me. That doesn't erase the rest. She looked at him for a long moment. Whatever you've done, tonight you were good. He turned away. Praise was more painful than insult sometimes. You shouldn't trust me, he said quietly. But I do. His breath stalled. And for a moment, he wished he could be the man she imagined he was. Her break ended, and she went back to work. He stayed until closing, watching her move through the diner with tired grace. When she finally untied her apron, the clock read 2:04 a.m. She walked to him, hesitating at the table. You stayed the whole time. You shouldn't walk home alone this late. She blinked. I take the bus. That's worse. She shivered at the thought. Well, I don't have choices. You do tonight. Her breath caught. Are you offering to walk me? Yes. You barely know me. He held her gaze. I know enough. She stared at him for a long moment, the fluorescent lights reflecting in her eyes. Okay, she whispered. They stepped into the night. Cold wind sliced between the buildings, carrying the scent of rain. She crossed her arms, shivering slightly. Without thinking, he shrugged off his coat and draped it over her shoulders. Her breath hitched. You'll be cold. I don't get cold. He did, tonight especially. But the weight of her warmth inside his coat steadied him. They walked in silence at first, their footsteps echoing on cracked pavement. His heart throbbed painfully every few steps, but he kept pace. Do you have family? She asked gently. No. Oh. She hesitated. I'm sorry. There's nothing to apologize for. What about friends? No. She bit her lip. That sounds lonely. It is. He never admitted that aloud. Something about her presence loosened things he had held tight for years. She whispered, I get lonely too. His steps faltered. He had no right, no space for connection. But here she was, walking beside him, wrapped in his coat, speaking quietly about loneliness like it was something they could share. A car slowed near them, too slow. Junseo's instincts sharpened instantly. His hand closed around her wrist, pulling her behind him in one smooth, protective motion. Wait, what? She gasped. The tinted-windowed sedan crawled past. A man inside glanced out, just briefly, but long enough to recognize Junseo. The car accelerated, disappearing down the street. Nia trembled behind him. Why did you? It's nothing, he said. A lie. She stepped around him, searching his face. Was that someone you know? In my world, he said carefully, being known isn't safe. She stared at him as realization slowly formed. Are you in trouble? Yes. She inhaled sharply. Then why help me? Why come back? Why? He cut her off gently. Because trouble has been following me for years. It was my choice to step near you, not your mistake. Her voice shook. But won't people in your world be angry you're with someone like me? He hesitated. His mind flashed to the council, to the man in the charcoal coat, to the silent watchers and unmarked cars. Yes, he whispered. Her breath trembled. Then maybe you shouldn't. I should stay away, he finished. She nodded, though her eyes dimmed in a way that made his chest hurt worse than any illness. He lifted his hand, slowly, carefully, and touched her cheek with the side of his fingers. But I won't. She froze. Her breath caught. Her lips parted slightly as if she couldn't understand why the quiet, cold man before her was saying this. He didn't understand it either. Why? She whispered. His voice came out low, quiet, painfully honest. Because you make me forget I'm dying. Her eyes widened, stunned, confused, afraid to understand. What would he mean dying? He stepped back, dropping his hand. Forget I said that. No, she breathed. Tell me. It doesn't matter, he said, turning away. She grabbed his sleeve. It matters to me. His chest tightened. Too much. Too fast. The world tilted for a moment, and he steadied himself on the wall. Juncio. Her hands reached for him. You're in pain. Go home, he whispered, gripping the wall. No, he inhaled sharply. If you stay, I can't protect you from what's coming. I don't want protection, she said, voice trembling. I want to understand. He met her eyes. No one had ever said that to him. Not once. Lightning cracked through his chest. Not illness, not pain, but something terrifyingly close to hope. He exhaled slowly. Tomorrow, he said. I'll explain tomorrow. You promise? He didn't make promises. They were chains. But he nodded. I promise. She stepped closer. So close he could feel the warmth of her breath in the cold air. Then, I'll see you tomorrow, she whispered. He watched her walk into her building, his coat still around her shoulders. His heart ached, not from sickness, from wanting to live. He returned to headquarters hours later. His subordinate met him at the door. We saw the car, the man said grimly. They recognized you. I know. You shouldn't involve civilians. I didn't intend to. Too late, the man replied. They'll target her to reach you. Juncio's blood ran cold. He straightened, ignoring the explosion of pain under his ribs. No, he said quietly. They won't. How can you be sure? His voice turned to ice. Because I won't let them. The man hesitated. You're risking everything for her. Juncio stared out the window at the city. Dark, restless, merciless. I'm not risking everything, he murmured. I'm protecting the only thing that's felt alive in years. His hand rested briefly against his chest, the failing heart that had already sentenced him. He didn't know how much time he had left, but for Nia, he would use all of it. He didn't sleep. The doctor's warning echoed through his skull as dawn broke over New York. Your heart is failing. Any extreme stress could trigger irreversible collapse. He sat at the edge of his bed, fingers steepled, breath shallow. Sleep didn't come to dying men. It came to the ones who wanted to live. And for the first time in years, he wanted to live. Because of her. But wanting something didn't make it safe. At 9:03 a.m., his subordinate burst into the room without knocking. His face was pale, eyes wide with alarm. Boss, there's a problem. Juncio stood slowly, steadying himself against the surge of pain. What happened? It's the Black Orchid, the man whispered. They made their move. They took someone. The world narrowed. Time moved like molasses. His voice came out a whisper steel. Who? The man swallowed. The waitress. Nia. A cold stillness wrapped around Juncio like a second skin. His heartbeat thundered once, painful, violent, then steadied into something frighteningly calm. How long ago? 30 minutes. They waited until she left her apartment. No witnesses. His fingers curled around the back of the chair. The wood cracked. He spoke softly, too softly. Prepare the car. Boss, wait. Your condition. Juncio stopped him with a single look. A look that could have cut concrete. Bring the car. The man didn't argue again. The warehouse on the outskirts of the river had once been a textile factory. Now it was a graveyard of rust and shadows. Juncio stepped out of the car before it even stopped. every breath cutting through his chest like glass. He didn't care. Pain meant he was still alive. Alive meant he could reach her. 2 guards waited outside the entrance. They straightened when they saw him, hands drifting to weapons. Juncio didn't break stride. "Where is she?" he asked. One guard smirked. "Inside. Our boss wanted to chat." Juncio's eyes lowered, not blinking, not shifting, just watching. The guard's smirk faltered. Juncio moved. It was quick, efficient. He sidestepped the first guard swing and struck his jaw with a single sharp blow. The second reached for a knife. Juncio twisted his wrist, disarmed him, and dropped him to the ground with a controlled slam. Both men lay unconscious. His heart pounded erratically. A warning. Later, he told it. You can fail later. Right now, Nia needed him. He entered the warehouse. She was tied to a chair, wrists bound, ankles trapped, a bruise blooming on her cheek. Her breaths came fast, shaky, uneven. And she was afraid, truly afraid. Something inside him split. Her eyes found him instantly. Relief flooded her face, so quickly it hurt to witness. "Juncio," she whispered. Her voice nearly buckled him. A man stepped out from behind her, a tall figure in a tailored suit, expression amused. "Finally," the man drawled, "the dying prince arrives." Juncio's jaw tightened. "Let her go." The man laughed. "She means nothing to us. She's only leverage, and you walked right into our hands." Juncio stepped forward. "Let her go." "Oh, I will," the man said, "after we're done here." He motioned, and 2 armed men emerged from the shadows. Nia trembled. Don't hurt him," she whispered. The man smirked. "Oh, the little waitress cares for the monster." Juncio didn't react, but inside, something broke open, something fragile and burning. "She's not part of this," he said. "Your war is with me." "Our war," the man corrected, "is with anyone whose death weakens you." A sharp pain shot across Juncio's chest. Hot, crushing. He staggered a half-step. The man saw it and smiled. "Ah, the heart again. How poetic." Nia choked in panic. "Juncio, please, your heart." He forced himself upright. "I'm fine." "You're not," she cried. "Please, don't do this alone." He raised a hand slightly, not to silence her, but to reassure, to tell her that her voice reached him, that it mattered. The man circling behind her clicked his tongue. "Sweet, isn't she? Shame it won't last." Juncio moved. The first attacker lunged. Juncio deflected the blow, twisted the man's arm behind him, and shoved him into a metal crate. The second swung a pipe. Juncio ducked, countered with a knee to the ribs, then struck with the blunt end of the pipe until the man collapsed. His heartbeat faltered violently. He gripped a support beam, breath thin, vision dimming at the edges. "Juncio." Nia cried. "Stop, please. You're killing yourself." He straightened. His voice was barely audible. "I won't let them touch you." The ringleader clapped slowly. "Beautiful. Truly. But you won't last. That heart of yours is running on borrowed time." Juncio stepped between Nia and the man. His knees nearly buckled. "Tell me," the man sneered, "what does it feel like to love someone who won't live long enough to keep her?" Nia's breath caught. She stared at Juncio, eyes wide, searching, breaking. His silence was answer enough. The man raised a gun. Juncio didn't think. He threw himself in front of her as the shot fired. Pain detonated through his entire body. Hot, numbing, suffocating. His knees collapsed. He hit the concrete hard. Nia screamed. "Juncio." He felt her hands on his shoulders, frantic, shaking. Her breath was wild, broken. He wanted to tell her not to cry, but his lungs refused to work. "You idiot," she sobbed. Why would you?" The ringleader approached, gun still raised. Touching, but pointless. Through the haze, Juncio reached for the gun that one of the fallen guards had dropped. His vision flickered like a dying bulb. He fired once. The ringleader's gun dropped to the floor first, then the man himself. Silence. Only Nia's sobbing filled the cavernous room. Juncio collapsed backward, breath shallow. Nia caught him, lowering him into her lap. Her hands shook violently as she pressed against the bleeding wound. "Stay with me," she whispered desperately. "Please. Stay. Please." He blinked slowly. Her face blurred. Tears streaked her cheeks. "It's okay," he murmured. "No, it's not," she cried. "Don't you dare leave me after everything, after all of this." His chest tightened. "Stop crying. I can't. You will make me want to stay." She froze. Her tears fell harder. "You should stay," she whispered. "You should live. You should fight. With me. For me." His throat trembled. "Nia." She pressed her forehead to his. "I don't care who you are. I don't care what danger comes. I don't care about your past. I only care that you walked into my life and protected me when no one else did. Let me protect you now. Let me stay." He exhaled shakily. Hope clawed its way into his chest and settled there like fire. "But I'm dying," he whispered. "Even if I survive this, my heart." "Then I'll share mine," she said fiercely. "We'll face it together. You don't get to leave just because you're scared of wanting something." His breath trembled. "Please," she whispered. "Don't give up." He didn't know he'd been crying until he felt the warmth on his cheeks. He looked at her, the woman he never intended to meet, never intended to feel, never intended to love. And with the faintest breath, he spoke the truth his dying heart had long buried. "I want to live." Her sob broke open. "Then stay. Stay with me." His vision swam. Darkness edged in. The world dimmed to only the warmth of her hands and the soft sound of her breathing. "Don't go," she whispered. "I'm not going," he murmured. And then everything faded. He woke to white light. The antiseptic smell told him where he was before he even opened his eyes. A hospital. He blinked, breath catching. Pain still burned in his chest, but softer. Contained. Someone sat beside the bed, head resting on folded arms. Nia. She was asleep, exhausted, still wearing the coat he'd wrapped around her days ago. He swallowed hard. Nia. Her head shot up. Her eyes were swollen from crying, but they filled instantly with relief. "Oh, thank God, oh, thank God." She grabbed his hand, pressing it to her cheek. "You're alive. You're really alive." He inhaled shallowly. "My heart. The doctor said it's bad," she whispered, "but not hopeless. You still have options. Treatments. Surgery. Medication. Time. Time. The one thing he thought he'd lost. When they brought you in," she said, voice trembling, "you weren't breathing. I thought—" Her voice broke again. "I thought I'd lost you." He brushed her cheek with his thumb. "I promised I'd see you tomorrow." "And you almost broke it," she scolded, eyes filling again. "Almost," he murmured. She leaned forward, pressing her forehead to his. "Don't scare me like that again." "I'll try." She gave a shaky laugh. "That's all I ask." He squeezed her hand. "Nia." "Yes. You said you wanted to understand me." "I still do." He looked at her. The woman who stayed through danger, fear, and his dying breath. Who cared for him when he couldn't care for himself. Who made him want a world beyond violence. "I'm not a good man," he said. "You're a man who protected me," she whispered. "That's enough." He closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, something inside him felt lighter. "Stay," he said softly. "Stay with me." Her breath caught. "You're asking me?" "Yes." She smiled, a trembling, radiant smile that warmed the cold corners of his soul. "Then yes," she whispered. "I'm staying." She curled into the chair beside him, holding his hand like it was the thread connecting his life to hers. He let himself feel the warmth of her skin. For the first time in years, his heart, broken, failing, wounded, beat with something other than pain. It beat with purpose. Hope. Life. Nia rested her head beside him, breathing softly. He watched her for a moment, memorizing the curve of her lashes, the warmth in her cheeks, the quiet strength she carried. He wasn't healed. He wasn't safe. He wasn't promised a future. But now, with her, he wanted one. For a man who expected to die, that was everything. He closed his eyes, letting his breathing sync with hers. Tomorrow would come, and he intended to be there when it did.